Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to tackle something that can feel like a secret language in the world of research, the academic abstract. We're going to crack the code so you can read them with total confidence, and maybe even more importantly, write them with some real clarity. So, have you ever stared at a block of text that looks just like this? I mean, it is dense, it's packed with jargon, and let's be honest, it just feels like this intimidating wall of words. It's literally the first thing you see in a research paper, but it can be the absolute hardest part to get through. If you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed just looking at that, trust me, you are not alone. So the big question is, how do you even approach this? Whether you're a student, a researcher, or just kind of curious, knowing how to navigate an abstract is a crucial skill, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today. Okay, so before we figure out how to decode them, let's talk about why they have such a big job in the first place. Think about it. This one short paragraph might be the only thing someone reads of your entire research paper. It's got to do some serious heavy lifting. So, what makes them so crucial? Well, for starters, they're a huge time saver for busy researchers trying to figure out if your paper is worth their time. They're also basically your ticket into academic conferences and are a huge part of getting funding. But here's the number one most critical rule. An abstract has to stand on its own. It has to be a perfect little miniature of your paper that makes total sense without any other context. So, how in the world do you manage all of that in just a few hundred words? Well, here is the secret. There's a pattern, a predictable structure that once you see it acts like a secret decoder key, making abstracts a whole lot easier to read and, you guessed it, to write. And here it is. It's a 5-part model first really nailed down by researcher Ken Hyland. You'll find that pretty much every abstract you come across is built around these 5 core pieces: an introduction, a purpose, the method, the result, and a conclusion. So let's break down what each of these parts actually does. Think of this as your decoder key in action. You see, each part has a very specific job. The introduction sets the whole scene. The purpose tells you the goal. The method explains how they did it. The result gives you the juicy findings. And the conclusion explains what it all means. Now, pay close attention to those key phrases on the right. They're like little signposts that'll guide you through any abstract you read. All right, enough theory. Let's put our new decoder key to the test, shall we? We're going to grab a real abstract from a biology journal and see if we can spot that 5-part pattern. Here it is, out in the wild. At first glance, it just looks like a paragraph. But because we're armed with our new formula, we can start to see that hidden structure. Let's break this thing down, sentence by sentence. Okay, let's start at the very beginning. That first sentence, it immediately sets the context. We're talking about forest ecosystems and this thing called green fall. Boom. That's our introduction, setting the stage for everything that's about to come. And look at that. Right away, the very next sentence, we get a classic signpost. This study examined. This is a crystal clear purpose statement. There's no guesswork here. We know exactly what the researchers were trying to do. So how'd they do it? Well, the next part tells us the leaves were analyzed and placed in litter bags. That's our method, explaining the experiment in a nutshell. A common mistake is putting way too much detail here. The abstract just needs the what, not the entire how-to manual. So what did they find out? That phrase, displayed significantly higher rates, is our signal that we've hit the result. This is the payoff, right? The core, data-driven findings that came out of the study. And finally, that last sentence kicks off with, these results suggest. And that's our cue for the conclusion. It connects the findings back to the big picture. So when you see it all laid out and color-coded like this, that 5-part structure becomes perfectly clear. See? It's not just a wall of text. It's a story. Now, here's a really important point. This 5-part model is an incredibly powerful guide, but it's not some kind of rigid law. Sometimes authors will adapt the formula a little bit to better fit their research and their specific field. For example, take a look at this abstract from a business journal. If you map it out, you'll spot the introduction, the purpose, the method, and a result. But notice what's missing. There's no explicit conclusion. In this case, the authors let the powerful results speak for themselves. Looking at them side by side really brings this flexibility to life. The biology abstract, a textbook example. All 5 parts are there. The business abstract, though, spreads its purpose across 2 sentences and just omits a formal conclusion. The key isn't to rigidly find 5 parts every time, but to understand the job each sentence is doing. And in fact, this isn't uncommon at all. One analysis of academic articles found that while most abstracts have the purpose, method, and result, only about half of them include a really distinct introduction and conclusion. So seriously, don't get thrown off if a part seems to be missing. Okay, now that you have the decoder key and you know the rules can be a little flexible, it's your turn. Let's put these new skills to the test with an abstract from a completely different field. Here we go. This is an abstract from a linguistics journal. Go ahead and read it through. Think about that 5-part model. Can you see the function of each sentence? Feel free to pause here if you'd like. Try to map out the introduction, the purpose, method, result, and conclusion. See if you can pinpoint where one ends and the next begins. All right, how did you do? Let's take a look. That first sentence sets the stage about social media's challenges. That's our intro. The key phrase, "this article investigates," screams purpose. Describing talking with participants, the how, is the method. The techniques they found are the key findings, or the result. And finally, proposing a new model is the conclusion, showing the wider importance. See? Even in a completely different field, the pattern holds up beautifully. So what's the big takeaway here? First, always be on the lookout for that 5-part structure. Use those key phrases we talked about as your guideposts. But remember, the pattern is a flexible tool, not a strict rulebook. And most importantly, use this decoder key every single time you look at an abstract. I promise it'll make you a faster, more effective reader and a much, much clearer writer. You see, the academic abstract isn't just a boring summary. It's the story of your research, told in miniature. It's your one chance to grab a reader's attention and share your work with the world. So now that you know the code, the only question left is, what story will you tell?